Welcome to week 6 and our final week of Pivot to Play. We're excited you can be here with us. If you missed last week, we had two really great speakers. We had Coach Crager, who has both coached and recruited football, and he talked about how you really want to make sure you're going to fit in the programs that you're looking at, and also how you can stand out when you're interacting with a college coach, whether it is on Zoom or you're actually interacting with them on the phone or in person. And then Jeff Fisher shared with us some tips on how to interact with the media. So this might be an interview at a game, or it might also be some of the recruiting services, the scouts, who are also considered media, reaching out to you. So he had some great pointers, and you can find a recording, link to the recording. Just let us know if you don't have that. Hector will be glad to DM that to you on Twitter, and you can take a look at what happened last week. We're really excited today to have Maddie Walsh with us, and Maddie is a recent graduate of USC. And while she was at USC during her junior and senior years, she was a recruiting and operations assistant with the football program. And Maddie can tell you more about this, but I think in the spring she started tweeting out some recommendations and some advice just because it was not normal once COVID started, and actually got a lot of interest and decided to start a platform called Kovid Recruiting. And today she's going to talk to us about how to really stand out on social media when you're not playing and there's not a lot of options in terms of the recruiting process. So Maddie, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you guys for having me today. I do have a couple slides, so I'm going to just put those up here. If I can remember which, there we go. Okay, you all can see that? Awesome. So like Ms. Diane mentioned, I created this platform called Kovid Recruiting, and I'll do a quick introduction just in case some of you haven't seen my Twitter before. And let's see here. Okay, so as was mentioned, I started out at USC, and I worked in the recruiting department there, in the operations department for 2 years, and I got really involved behind the scenes. So I was working on all of our official visits, contacting recruits, helping with our scouts, and making sure that we were finding all the hidden gems out there. And I was also able to get really involved with the community outreach program, so bringing our players to schools and youth shelters, getting them out there, which was my favorite part of the job. I love that. And outside of football, I worked in social media marketing. So I interned last summer for Russell Wilson. I'm assuming you know who he is. And I was working on his social media and production company and learned a lot from him. And then now I'm working as the social media coordinator for the Edge Foundation. So I really try to look at recruiting from the perspective of a marketer, and I want to give players the tools to market themselves, because you're really responsible for selling yourself to coaches and selling yourself to programs. So the golden rule of marketing yourself as a player is show, don't tell. This is because everybody is tweeting. And I can tell you from all the recruits that I follow and all of the Twitter stalking that I do, that every single player out there is tweeting things like, "You'll never outwork me. I'm going to make everybody proud. I'm going to shock the world. I'm going to change everything." And that's awesome. But we can't actually see any of what's going on behind the scenes. So you need to make sure that your Twitter is reflecting everything that you're saying and putting out there. Basically, you want to use Twitter to create your personal brand. And so creating a personal brand just means, putting your values out there, putting your work ethic, your talent, and making sure that it's very visible. Because you can say, "You'll never outwork me," but if somebody can't see the workout or see the work that you're putting in, they might not be interested enough to watch your tape or do a little bit of digging because they've seen that exact same tweet 20 times today. So when I say personal brand, I like to give the example of kind of shopping for shoes. So Noah, if I can put you on the spot, and if you were looking at let's see, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were looking at two identical pairs of shoes, like you had exactly the same, they look the same material, everything, but one is Adidas and one is Nike, which one do you think you'd rather get?
I would choose Nike.
Okay. Can you give me like one quick bullet point as to why?
They're just comfortable on my feet.
Mm-hmm.
They
Cool.
also look good.
Yeah, they look good. And if these shoes are the exact same, like you kind of have an affinity for Nike, right? Like when we think about Nike, like it's a company that sells shoes and athletic equipment, but the brand, Nike's brand, is professional. It's for the toughest of the tough. Just do it. They care about social justice. Like there's so much more that goes with the Nike swoosh than just the shoe. So exactly, like when it comes to picking recruits, you can make the same comparisons. Like if a coach is looking at let's say two running backs, and both running backs have the exact same 40 time, same height and weight, same stats from the season, are they going to choose the guy whose Twitter page is full of workouts and photos and he's tweeting about his community outreach and his leadership? Or are they going to choose the guy who has the, bland tweets like you'll never outwork me and I'm going to shock everybody and the exact same thing that everyone else is saying? He's going to go with the first guy.
Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you, Noah, for being my guinea pig there.
Yeah.
And so that's why when it comes to Twitter, you need to create a virtual showcase. So normally with like behind the scenes, there's a lot of evaluation that goes on, and you would get noticed at a camp. You'd go to an elite camp, or local coaches might come to your high school games, or they'd be watching your huddle tape. Right now, it's kind of hard to do because a lot of players don't have games, or all of the summer camps were canceled, and the combines are canceled. So it's like coaches probably have not been able to see these players in person, and you might not be able to show off in front of a coach, and that's how we get evaluated. The trick is that you need to put all of what they would have seen in person on Twitter using virtual or video content, photos, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but also information that they otherwise would have to dig for. So that's why we have Twitter bios. Like we ask that you fill out your Twitter bio with all this information. Because if a coach, like let's say that you reply to a coach who's calling for huddle links and you're like, hey, please look at my film. And he does, and he's like, oh, I'm interested in this guy. Let me go see what his Twitter page is about. And he goes there and he doesn't know where you're from, what your GPA is, like what grad year you are. He's not going to look for that information. Like he's going to be like, okay, on to the next guy. But if you put all of that information on a plate and he's able to find that like super easily, then, you're going to pique the interest and he's going to write that down. Noah Taylor, high school, hometown, add him to the list. The thing is, when you have, everybody putting this information in their bio, is that people exaggerate, and coaches know that. Coaches know that like players lie, and that's why these combines and these camps were so important. Was because coaches could actually verify what the height and weight was, what the 40 time was, all of that good information. So that's where video content comes in, these pictures that can kind of prove like, no, I'm actually 6'2" or whatever it is. And in terms of game tape, like, I don't know if you guys are all playing right now, maybe not, but this is an example of something that we can do, something that you can post instead of huddle highlights. So every spring, right, we sit down and we watch the NFL Combine, and that has nothing to do with like skills. We're not watching them play games, but we're evaluating these players just based on their athleticism. So if somebody has a good combine, we're like, wow, did you hear about that guy? Like, did you see this one player? We're just evaluating them from the comfort of our own home. There's no in-person, yet we get a pretty good idea of what kind of football player they are. And fortunately, all of those drills can be recreated at home. So if you go to a local park, you're in your backyard or whatever, You can do a 3-cone drill, you can do a shuttle, you can do 40, 60, and post videos of that and kind of like cut it together the way that you would a game highlight tape. And that's going to give a coach something that they can look at, something that they can actually see and evaluate instead of, waiting for game tape. And it's also it's also useful even if we were in the middle of a season and you guys were having games, because coaches know that they can coach talent and they can kind of help you work on skills. They can help you, develop as a player, but it's harder to coach somebody who's not athletic or doesn't have the size. So I heard a lot of coaches say, like, I can't coach size. And that's why you want to show off that, like, you're the clay. You have what it takes to be a good athlete, and you just need their mentorship to become that elite player.
Hey, Patty, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
We hear the height weight verification a lot. In fact, we're about to roll out a new release of Scout Smart in there where the coaches can show that they've actually verified that height and weight, because they don't believe it if it's self-reported. So on this video, do you want them to like show them up against a measuring, what can they do to show that it really is their height and weight?
Yeah, I think taking videos of somebody like measuring your height, and even a video of yourself stepping on a scale can be really, really helpful, because as you mentioned, like, coaches just will not believe those numbers until they see it with their own eyes. And so that's why they've been relying on camps, but obviously this year they can't. It's really hard to get verified numbers. So if you're able to, take these, have those measurements recorded on video, then it's not going to be the most exciting video you've ever posted. I wish that you could be posting videos of game highlights, but it's a really simple way to say, no, I really am what I say I am, because any number that's self-reported, like, probably won't even get written down on your profile. I saw that happen a lot, where the boss would ask, hey, where did you get these numbers? His Twitter bio, throw them out, so those videos are super important. Were there any other questions about this or different content for right now? Okay, cool. So this is how I break down the recruiting process. And a lot of guys get caught up in stage 3. They think, oh, I'm getting recruited when I'm getting contacted. But there's so much evaluation that goes on before that. Obviously they're not going to recruit somebody they've never heard of before. So you are really responsible for these first 2 steps. You want to make sure that you're putting content out there and reaching out to coaches so that they take a second to look at your profile. And then you want to make sure that you are giving them content to evaluate. So you need to go above and beyond the huddle tape, which everybody's posting. Show off your workouts, show off your speed training, weightlifting, and then those measurements that we were talking about, just to make sure that they can kind of go to your Twitter page and step away knowing everything they need to know about you as a player, instead of waiting around to see you in person or waiting to see more game tape in the spring. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing right now and kind of open it up. I don't know if you guys have any questions. I have a few. If you don't have any for me, then I have some for you. Okay, so if I was in your spot, I would want to know, how do I make sure that the right people see this content? Because of course you can spend all day posting your workout videos, but if the coaches don't see them, kind of wasting your time. So I would say what's really important is Twitter stalking. And basically when I say that, I mean just going through and searching, like in the search bar, it lets you search for like job titles. So if you put in Director of Recruiting and then hit people, it'll bring up a list of Twitter users with Director of Recruiting in their bio. And so you want to really be reaching out to anybody on the football staff, because people will pass players back and forth. If they aren't working on recruiting, they know somebody who is. That happened to me a lot. That happened to like some of my coworkers. They'd be like, oh, this guy DM'd me. Will you take a look at him? Or this person emailed us. You should check him out. And that's another thing. Players, they stay in the DMs all day. Make sure that you're working on email too. So most staff emails will be available on a school's website. So if you make a list of like, let's say 10 to 15 schools that you're interested in, and go through and kind of write down the emails of like the assistant coaches, the recruiting staff, basically anybody who's connected to the program, then you can send out an email with your whatever huddle tape you have, and then your workout videos, your Twitter, all that stuff. Okay. I would also want to know, in building my personal brand, what should be included other than work ethic and talent. And so when you're thinking about those things, you should be thinking about leadership as well. So again, it comes down to picking players, like what is going to help you stand out. Somebody who's a leader on his team, especially right now, because you guys have probably played a year or two, but there are a lot of freshmen who are, missing out on their first season, and they would love to hear from an upperclassman. So I'd really challenge you to kind of reach out to younger players right now, get a conversation going, get them excited about the spring, make sure that they're working out. Say, do you want to work out together if that's safe in your area right now? And just kind of establish yourself as a team first guy, because like coaches are recruiting you to be a part of their team, and these teams are like families. So when they bring you in, they want to know that they're getting a good teammate, not just a good player. Okay, I think those are kind of my main points for right now. Any other questions come up from that?
Maddie, I wanted to point out Pete Snyder is on the call, and he has offered to help the recruits in Pivot to Play with their video. So if anyone is putting together a workout video, height and weight video, Pete does this, in the area. It is part of his profession, but he'll do it for free for any of the Pivot to Play recruits. So if you guys are interested, just let me know, and we'll give Pete's email to you.
Yeah,
I don't know, Pete, if you have anything else to say there.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I've helped some of the local high schools, whatever age they are in high school, and some of the guys that go to different training facilities get things together. So I'd be happy to help any of these people that need help getting them together. Be great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And one thing we're talking about, I can get them together. I can get the videos over to Diane. They can tweet them out through Scout Smart too to get a good bit of traction, hopefully.
Awesome.
I have a question for you also, Madeline.
Yeah.
I know we're talking a lot about kids that aren't playing. We're playing high school football here in Georgia, and had one of our great receivers senior year tore his ACL right before the season. So he's not going to have any video.
Yeah.
If we're putting together information for him, and obviously it's going to be a little different because he can't do the training right now, but we're going to try to promote him as well. Do you have any tips for somebody in those shoes?
Yes. That is actually a question that I get a lot. So I'm injured. Should I be honest with coaches and tell them that happened? And my answer is always yes. So when you're reaching out to coaches, I would say the key is to be really intentional about how you explain it. So instead of saying, hey, here's all my tape and I'm a really great receiver, but my ACL is torn, I would say I tore my ACL X number, like let's say 3 months ago. I'm 25% recovered, expected to be 50% by December and 100% by next April. And this is where I'm at in my PT. This is what I'm able to do right now. And these are my goals by November and April. And then keep following up, if he has tape and any performance videos from before, he can use those. But that in communicating with coaches right now should definitely kind of angle it so that it's like he's almost recovered, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm recovering, almost done. This is what I can do now, and this is what I'll be able to do by the time you need me to play. So, yeah.
Because he's back walking now. He's got some great as a junior, so he's making good progress.
Yeah.
Great kid, great frame on this kid. So, and I've told him I'd do anything I can to help him. So I appreciate that those tips.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen players with like broken feet show up on day one still in the boot, to fall camp. So guys, if they can play, they can play. And that's really all coaches want to know.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
And Eddie, I think you hit on this too, but one of the things that coaches tell us is that they get a whole lot of tweets to say, hey, check out my huddle video. And Hector can tell you, we get the same thing. Check out my huddle video. And, you know, it really goes a long way if more thought is given to the messaging for that coach, that you actually research them. And I like this, even if it was somebody, you know, coming for an interview with me, that they know a little bit about that coach and what that program is looking for in this particular position, and lead with that versus check out my huddle video.
Yeah, if you are, so in those instances where a coach is like calling for huddle video on Twitter and you respond and all you say is check out my video with the link, I'm not interested. But if you say, hey, I'm a 6'4" receiver, this is my 40 time, this is my height weight, this is my stats from last season, please check out my huddle video, I might click on that link. And another thing when it comes to huddle that I think some players forget about is that coaches really have maybe 30 to 40 seconds to watch. So if you need to put your best plays first. Those, sometimes players like try to build to like a big finish, and you know, that is not useful. And I would say single game tape is not that useful. So if you can, it's great to update your huddle after every single game, but if you're tweeting at a coach, you want to have the best of the best. So that should be a season or a mid-season highlight, so that they can actually see, you know, you're putting your best foot forward instead of like, here's how I performed in one game. And that's why I always encourage players to create a mid-season, you know, 4 or 5 game highlight tape. And it sounds like Pete can help with that. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. No, that's great. That's great advice, and exactly what we are hearing from college coaches as well. Any other questions for Maddie?
I'll expand on one point. I think talking about email and being intentional about who you email, I mentioned a list. And I think working with a list is a really, really good way to organize your recruiting process, because if you are just trying to shoot at anybody, you know, hopefully you'll get a bite. But if you can actually create a list of like 10 to 15 colleges to start with and really be consistent with reaching out to them, then you're going to have a better chance, because you're going to be more specific and like tailor your messaging towards these coaches, and they'll start to see you, you know, if they see your name pop up a couple times, then they're going to be more likely to give you that 30-40 second evaluation. And I think that it's important also to make sure that you have a range of schools on that list, because I get a lot of guys who message me like, I want to go D1, and I'm like, that's awesome. But if you're not trying to reach out to D3, D2, you're never going to get those offers, which will generate interest from the D1 coaches who are like, oh, I just saw this, you know, D3 coach I follow offered this guy. Let me go check out what he's offering. So often, you know, just narrowing your focus to one type of school can really limit your process and limit your chances.
No, I think that's great advice, and I would really encourage the recruits to download that free recruiting plan that we put together, because it helps you kind of think about where do you really want to go to school. And we talked some about this last week too. You know, do I want to be in a rural area? Do I want to be in an urban area? Do I want a small school? Do I want a large school? Do I want to play right away? Do I mind sitting out a year? Is the major, I mean, guys, you're going to play football for a while, but you're going to be doing something after football, no matter what level you go to. So think about your major, and does that school offer my major? And will, you know, I be a good fit there? Will I be happy there? And so the recruit plan template we developed kind of walks through all that. So I think Maddie's, you know, advice is great, you know, kind of picking a short list of schools, but be realistic and realize it's up to you too. Don't pick somewhere that you really would not want to go there. You wouldn't move there.
Yeah, very true.
I've got another question for you as well. Kind of like you had said, it's amazing once a kid gets that first offer, all of a sudden, then they get another one. They really start piling up. What are your thoughts on kids? And I see a lot of kids tweet out, thanks for the offer to whatever school it is. Then you see the kids that, I just got my 8th offer. What do you think of the people that count the offers? Should it just be a thank you for the offer to that particular school?
I can kind of see why, when there are some kids who get up into like double digit offers, the numbers, it feels a little like more like bragging than informative. But I'm kind of all for letting them, like when it comes to getting offers and stuff, that's so exciting. Like, definitely tweet about it. And if you want to let people know where you're at, then in a way, it's kind of directed at coaches. And so if I'm a coach and I see that first, if the tweet about I got my 8th offer is the first tweet I've seen from him, that signals that, oh, this kid's on fire. I need to check him out. If I just see, oh, I got an offer from so-and-so, I might check him out, but unless I know that this guy's really gaining momentum, it's all about piquing interest in that kind of like clickbait
Yep.
tweet.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very competitive. So I guess I
know.
get it too. I think at the end of the day, you need just the one right offer at the right program
Yes.
for you, but it's very competitive. So I can understand the need to do that.
Yeah.
I was fortunate. My son is playing college ball, and we'd be in those meetings, and a lot of the coaches would ask him, "Go ask these kids real questions." And
Oh yeah.
when are you going to commit to the school? And his answer was usually, "When I know it's a good fit, I'll make a commitment to the school." And everybody seemed to like that answer when he gave it to them, but that answer will come up, and they're expecting some kind of answer when you're there.
Yeah, I think that's on that note, you'll also get asked like, well, why do you want, if you're telling a coach, oh, I want to play for you, he's going to say why. And if your answer is, well, I just want to play football anywhere, any way I can, that's not a very impressive answer. But if you say, oh, I want to play for you because I like the way you coach, I like the culture of this team, I want to go to your school because it has a good engineering program and I want to be an engineer in the long run, or whatever it is, you should have something specific to the school and not just a generic answer, because that, again, that's just putting you in the same category as like all the other guys that he looks at on a daily basis.
Awesome. Any other questions for Maddie? Maddie, that was super helpful. Can you share your contact information the best way? Because we'll share this video on a broader scale. And so if someone's not on the call and they would want to reach out to you, can you let them know the best way is it's your Twitter or however you'd like for them to reach you?
Yeah, Twitter is probably the best way. I'm always looking at DMs and stuff. So Maddie Walsh FB is my Twitter handle. But you can also email me at kovidrecruiting@gmail.com. So, and the website has a contact form as well. And I'm always checking that stuff. So if you want to work one-on-one, like I'm happy to kind of create personal content strategies and answer questions offline. If you want to talk more in the DMs, it's sometimes easier.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being with us here today on Pivot to Play, and thank you for what you're doing in general. I think, this is, there's a lot of anxiety and fear right now, and I think this is really helping recruits have a plan, have a way to stand out with coaches. So I know we really appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, of course. Thank you again for having me. Really appreciate it.
Great. So just as a reminder kind of what we've covered over the 6 weeks, and we can get videos to anyone that is interested, or I'd be willing to talk to anyone that's interested too. But we brought in a number of experts, coaches, scouts, folks who have been in this industry to give a lot of recruiting advice and ways to help you stand out with coaches. We brought in folks with training tips and video tips. Pete has offered to help, with your videos. We also had Haley, who talked about academics and how to calculate your core GPA. We've got some tools to help you with that as well. We had Clint, our scout, do an eval on our Pivot to Play recruits. And we want to make sure that we have a Scout Smart profile for all of you. It is always free for recruits to be in the Scout Smart database. So please make sure that you've completed your Scout Smart profile. We've also talked about character, and Maddie talked about character and leadership, and that's really important. We spent 1 week just talking about character. And that's going to help you not just playing at the next level, but it's going to help you in life. So I strongly recommend that you take a look at the character session as well. And download the recruiting plan, and it will help you identify those schools where you're a good fit. So if there's not any more questions, I just want to say thank you all, and stay in touch with us and let us know how we can help you.
And thank you, Diane, for putting this whole thing together. I think it's been a wonderful, a lot of great information has been shared over the 6 days. So thank you for all you've done.
Well, thank you, Pete. Thanks for participating. And I'm excited to now take this content and get it out to even a wider group of people, because I agree with you. We've had some outstanding speakers and a lot of great content to help recruits. All right. Thanks all. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.